Hello there, Corey. How are you? It's been a
I'm
while.
doing very well, Ian. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Got a lot of news.
Hook us up.
Okay, well, for those people who are watching who want to subscribe to our podcast outside of just our website, they can now find us on iTunes. We have now joined the giant monolith that is Apple. And for those of you who found us on iTunes, please check out our website, sharethebytes.com. We've got
And the
more
crowd
content
goes
coming up.
wild.
Well, so yeah, that's the big news.
Okay.
Yep, that's what I've been up to for the last couple weeks. Oh, and also had a guest on our last episode. Episode 4, This is Android. A friend of mine named Jack from the Berkeley Linux Users Group. He talked about his Android programs, SquirrelCam, Droidian eMusic, and Archive Droid. Great programs, great platform, and so I'm hoping to have him back again sometime soon.
Very nice. Very nice. You said something about getting some more people too from the Lug group over there, I believe.
Yes,
Something good.
yeah, there's quite a few people interested in coming on. There's a guy who's pretty much an expert at compiling deb packages. He refuses to use a GUI interface. Everything is command line. And then a PHP expert.
Oh, I'll have to get in on that one too.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. And again, Jack also has the new Nexus S Android phone, and he
Mm.
wants to bring that on and talk about it. And what's cool is the Nexus S is the phone that Google sent up into space, 7 of them.
Wait, was that like one of those toss shit into space and hope someone finds them in 50 years kind of
No, no,
thing?
6 of them came back down, at least that they can find. And
Oh, okay.
there's video of them on Google's website. It's really cool. And what they used is the phone to record all the accelerometer and gyroscope data as it was falling through the sky.
Nice.
Yep. So
Nice.
they've got the
Good to
full
do that.
video of it going up through the clouds, hitting the atmosphere, looking at space. You can see the little Android doll sitting there looking into space. Then the balloon pops, and then the Android doll flies off into space as the phone and the cameras come tumbling back down to Earth.
Nice.
Yep.
And that's not on the actual Google, like Google.com. What's the Google web page? I've never
Well,
been there before.
I don't know exactly for the Nexus S phone. Well, I mean, if you do go to developers developer.google.com or just type in Android into Google, it's the
Hmm.
first link, and there will have a nice picture of a little gingerbread guy there with an Android head. And then if you go to
Oh,
developers' phones, it'll show the G2 phone and it'll show the Nexus S. And I think with some searching, you can find those videos. And if you ever go to YouTube, you can type in Nexus S. They're the first things that pop up.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm hoping to talk about that, his experiences with the phones, compare how it works with the now
Hey, dude.
old Nexus
So,
one.
Yeah, just a little bit. We're in the middle of something.
oh, okay. It's pretty sharp then.
Yeah, I know. Pretty sexy, isn't it? Do you want to start it again or call it? Go with that.
Your
Sorry,
choice,
I
up
forgot
to
to
you.
close my freaking door. Ah, oh man, it's an interesting night. Ah.
Oh, yeah.
So where were we?
Well, we were just talking about the Nexus S phone,
Hmm.
talked about iTunes, we talked about our guests, and now we want to get to the real meat of this episode and talk about programming language and specifically IDEs. And really what experience we've had with programming on platforms, what we've liked, what we didn't like, and what we would recommend.
Okay.
Yep. So I noticed talking about your application for the tablet. You're
Hmm.
using GTK. I know for Qt development there's a Qt IDE. And again, for those who aren't familiar, Qt is the development platform that KDE is based on. And a whole bunch of software companies use it for their programs as well, both Windows programs, Mac programs, and Linux. And so I was kind of wondering, going from Qt and now to GTK, your experience, how did you program it? Did you use an IDE? Was it all command line based? Tell us.
Um. Well, at the time, I was semi laid up with an accident, let's say at that point, and so I only had one wrist available. But that's no real excuse. I just figured I'd throw that out. I threw together on my laptop at one point the yeah, Ubuntu, and everybody loves Ubuntu, and didn't want to hassle around with trying to figure out the best IDE, so I just went with NetBeans. NetBeans is a Java-based development environment,
Hmm.
um, which is really kind of funny because it's a Java application designed primarily to make it easy for you to write Java applications. So it's if it ever gets smart enough, we'll just let it go and it'll take over the world using Java. Um,
That almost
but
sounds like
it,
the chicken and the eggs paradox.
yeah, it is. It makes you wonder which came first. Um, but the but it comes with plugins for C++, PHP, HTML on top of
Hmm.
that. You kind of need or you kind of need PHP and HTML. They kind of go together.
Uh-huh.
Um, and there's a bunch of other plugins you can get for it. At the time, it wasn't that big of an issue. The one complaint I've had about it is it's being a Java-based app. It's very resource heavy.
Uh-huh.
Um, it's a lot more top heavy than a natively compiled application. So the usual trade-off.
Yeah.
It's not that big a problem as long as you're not trying to design. I'm assuming this huge, ginormous thing. Yeah, NetBeans it's got a lot of great features that work really well.
Hmm.
And for anyone who wants to just pick up something and go, it's pretty much the go-to IDE, unless you do Windows coding, and then that's
Yeah.
Windows domain. Windows has its own little world.
Yes, yeah. A
So
nice visual studio,
yeah.
if we
Well,
want to call it nice. So I mean,
uh,
I have to say, I use Visual Studio for work,
mhm.
since it's a Windows platform, and again, yeah, there are some things that don't work well, and then there's some things that work very well. Again, it always depends on application, what you really want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to the IDs, more specifically Linux, you're talking about NetBeans and Java. My experience with that is with Eclipse,
Hmm.
another Java compiler, and I got started on it with when I started programming for Android, and I
Hmm.
really wanted to try it out because Google officially supports using the Eclipse IDE with its Android SDK. They offer a plugin, and supposedly has great reviews. It works for Windows, Linux, and Mac. Well, when I tried to use it, I couldn't get it to work. And I found out the problem is because I was running a 64-bit version of Linux.
Of
Now,
course.
Eclipse works with the 64-bit version of Linux. However, Eclipse plus the Android SDK plugin didn't play nicely. Did a little bit of research on the internet. Some people have said they've got it working, changing environment variables, path names, the whole nine yards. I said that's just a little bit too much for my taste. Granted, I like to get pretty serious into Linux, going command lines and in the configuration files, but I wanted to get started quickly. I didn't want to have to deal with this, so I stuck with the command lines and I just use ant. And that's basically the generic Java compile. And as long as there's the default XML file in the Android source directory, it works perfectly. Now,
Yeah.
granted, the trade-off with that is with Eclipse. The nice thing about it is that when you're typing, it auto-completes the code that you're typing. So
Yeah.
if you've got a particular class, it highlights the class variables, setters and getters,
You don't
functions.
have you have fewer syntax errors.
Exactly. I mean, with having to type this out in a text editor, I've got to remember everything, or I've got to look it up, and typically things don't work just right or work at all on the first compile, and it says,
Mhm.
oh, you've missed this, or this class does not work here. And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the trade-off there.
Yeah.
But I have gotten it working with a 32-bit version of Linux. Works great, and highly recommend it for people who want to give it a shot.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.